SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So, this is our fourth session of week 4 on marketing management advanced concepts. This is Jayanta Chatterjee and I have Dr. Shashi Shekhar Mishra with me. And we were discussing yesterday about brands and the particular concept of flanker brands. We were discussing about Coke and Thumbs Up, how Thumbs Up protects Coke from attack of Indianness or a certain type of new market opportunity also, which is represented by Thumbs Up, a different taste and a different promise. And the other kind of flanker brands or could be by way of variants. So, for example, Dabur red tooth powder was the original product. It had its own market, very popular in rural India, but then it was introduced in its new avatar like Dabur red toothpaste, and that was positioned with the herbal health promise against Colgate and other foreign brands. And in a way, I would say this Dabur red is a brand architecture which is now being emulated by Patanjali and others. Also, I think the older two in this field will be Dabur red and Vico Vajradanti, and which are now many other players are coming in this segment because of this increasing interest which you mentioned in health and naturalness of all products. Okay, I will now go to the next case or next situation where your brand is strong in the current market, the market is saturated and you are looking to diversify. That means you have a strong position in a market which has evolved and it is already kind of reaching saturation. In India, we do not see many such markets because India is still growing rapidly in terms of consumption. I think all manufactured products in India today may be catering to almost at most maybe 30-40% of the population. 60% of the population, particularly the rural population, are still quite hungry.
Yeah, we know that this common term coined in the academics is bottom of the pyramid. So
yes.
That is a still untouched segment.
The bottom of the pyramid is very wide. So there are challenges in that market, but there are huge opportunities in that market. Yeah. That is why market saturation is something that is it happens in India in a transient manner. Then the market expands with the other price points emerging. But there still are examples which are worth looking at. So, for example, that you can take that same name which has a very strong brand appeal and you can give that name to a different kind of product line. Sometimes that happens due to regulatory reasons, like for example, cigarettes are cannot be promoted, and Wills is a very strong brand of ITC, and then they use that same brand instead of using it for cigarettes, they use it, they interpret that it is a lifestyle and then give it to a whole line of apparels, clothing. So, Wills then become a clothing and fashion brand, and it still borrows from the attraction young people had. Some of them are now young maybe middle-aged people, and they are still, they recognize wills, and therefore it goes. So line extension by in the
One good example of this line extension is that what we were showing previously also, this Dabur Red, it was basically a powder form.
correct,
Now they came the same brand
correct,
in this toothpaste. So another form, but it is the same product category. Now what you are going to talk about is brand extension, is taking the brand actually a different product categories.
absolutely.
Brand extension.
So thereby actually your overall revenue. So there we can see, for example, Reebok.
Yeah.
So Reebok is shoes.
Yeah.
But Reebok is associated, or Reebok shoes are associated with jogging, running, walking, trekking. So it's a active lifestyle oriented product. So using that extension, therefore, from shoes, you can introduce Reebok water, which is a flavored water with certain added elements to give you energy when you are in sports or active life style activities. So similarly, Nike shoes are associated with jogging, playing different games. So you can therefore use that and go on a extension and introduce various kinds of casuals or sports attire, which you can use while playing basketball, or while jogging, or while running, walking. So you create a whole line of apparels, casual wear apparels, which then gives you additional benefit. Or Harley Davidson, associated with macho men, it's almost like a cult brand for bikers. So there are Harley Davidson bikers clubs. So Harley Davidson saw in this an opportunity, and they created cologne, and they are, I think, experimenting now with even different kinds of leather dresses, which therefore has the Harley Davidson brand and caters to almost the same market. So when we do this kind of extension, we are often serving the same customer, the same set of customers, but for associated needs, not completely different needs, but associated needs.
I think I'll take it to the what you talked about, the same set of customer. From where this concept of brand extension came was initially at the beginning of the previous session, you have talked about the cost of launching a new brand. So the cost of a new product or a new brand is extremely high.
Correct.
And in that case, brand extension is a way that you reduce your cost of promotion, because you have a set of loyal customers. They have a very good recognition of your brand, and they understand or they follow your brand very closely. So anything launched by Nike or Reebok or Harley Davidson, its existing customer of its existing products are going to always have is likely to give a try to that new launch actually.
Absolutely.
And that is where this brand extension makes a lot of sense, because
more economic sense.
Yeah. So from a seller's side, it's very cost effective in terms its launch cost is very less, and the failure is also very, I mean, it's seen that relatively the failure rates in the brand might be lower than compared to a newer brand.
Absolutely.
And then the thing,
because you are starting with a sort of asset bank, in a way.
So you are leveraging, you already have a certain kind of brand equity, and you are just leveraging the same brand equity into another new product category. What has to be understood is in which cases generally it is seen that you can extend the brand. So I think there are 3 dimensions under which you can leverage the brand equity. Is that if you have a certain kind of substitute product. So if you are a manufacturer of a tea, and if you see that upcoming segment or upcoming market is coming for coffee or the other beverage, you can take the same brand. So Nest tea or Nest coffee, the different.
So Nescafe is a very famous brand, but you can use that Nest and use a Nest tea.
Yeah. So that is one thing, and then you see that the complementarity is another dimension, the second dimension, where you see if you make certain kind of product, if you make a keyboard and if you launch basically a mouse there, or if you are a manufacturer of LCD and if you come out with any complementary product with that LED TV, then that will go as a basically you can launch it as a basically as a brand extension in the new product category, because customers understand that you are a brand that is present in that space. And the third dimension could be the transferability, where probably a customer understand that you have those capability as a manufacturer or the seller, that if you make this kind of product, you can also make this kind of product. So if you are probably making certain kind of shoes, you can probably also make the other sports item or those kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that is where these are the three dimensions where probably we see the leverages being taken out of an existing brand in the brand extension.
I think originally this economic benefit that you derive from this extension effort attracted most companies. So Sony was a strong player in music system around the world in consumer electronics. So they first expanded from their position to they introduced Sony camera. Then they saw that why not we go into the adjacent area, adjacent market. So they started producing cassettes and CDs which go into music system. So they acquired content manufacturing companies. They went one step forward and they acquired movie making companies. So because movies and they are all part of the same entertainment basket, and thereby they often actually we have seen that conglomerates like Sony have been created by this process of creating brand extension. So therefore they in time today Sony therefore has become an umbrella brand not only for consumer electronics, but today it is an umbrella brand within which there are studios, within which there are movie distribution companies, within which there are exhibition and because Sony also owns large number of movie halls around the world and so on. A very important point of course is this word I just now used, adjacency. With that I want to introduce this other word which is on the screen, congruence, which means that there must be some rationale, some logic by which the customer will be able to create in his or her mind that this goes together. So if Johnson is doing very well Johnson's baby powder, then it makes sense to introduce Johnson baby oil.
And they are all targeted to one segment, that's
and it's high congruence.
But
care. Sometimes this congruence point is very important because like say Harpic toilet cleaner, right? So it is now things that we do in the toilet. So like but if we now create a Harpic toothpaste, then this congruence will be detriment. So therefore that kind of brand extension here we have put it in a humorous manner, but even large companies sometimes have made this mistake. They have introduced products which have gone against the logic of congruence, and thereby that particular brand extension has failed, and often sometimes it has harmed the original. Same brand name and different product in the same product line, continuing examples like Dove soap and Dove shampoo, or Lenovo PCs and laptops as you were mentioning, or Sony as we discussed. And the main important point is that line extensions are safer strategies than brand extensions, since congruence in line extension is always higher. So therefore, like going from PC to laptop or from soap to shampoo is a surer recipe than say going from soap to toothpaste, because you are extending it a little, the adjacency is far removed in some cases. So maybe even if Dove tomorrow comes up with a toothpaste, its promotion will be tougher, because all the promises that are Dove, that it has moisturizing properties, works well for soap or shampoo, but the moisturizing is a non-issue when it comes to toothpaste. Then it will not be that easy, even though it will be going to the same type of customer, even though it will be for similar type of ritualistic activities, our daily activities, daily chores, but yet it will be much tougher to promote Dove toothpaste, because they will have to come up with another property that will link the two. Sometimes people use just the flavor or the scent or the certain type of other attributes, like for example, soap and talcum powders sharing the same brand name. There are many examples, but shampoo to toothpaste, there are not very many examples, because the properties are challenged. I think I will now go into some B2B cases. So, one of the in B2B, we know that we are fundamentally focused on utility and property and functions, but many times consumers do not recognize. So, when it comes to a computer, the brand appeals to the customer directly, because the customer sees the computer or the laptop. But Intel, which is the heart and soul of, in a way, of these machines, but it is inside, the consumer does not see. But at one point of time, Intel understood that it is very important for them to protect and create a brand position, because they were threatened by emergence of people like AMD, and they said that we must create a situation that where people will ask the computer seller. Normally, we never ask the computer seller that whose graphic card you have. But Intel wanted that the buyer should ask that, do you have, is your computer based on Intel? So, they created that famous Intel Insight campaign. They poured in billions of dollars in that campaign, but it has now created a situation for them that they can even allow local manufacturers to leverage their product
based on Intel,
just based on the Intel name. So, a completely non brand in the sense of a computer global branding in a market like India can survive and grow by giving the Intel promise, by saying that I have the motherboard from Intel, everything inside the computer is from Intel. So, this ingredient brand building, Intel is a very, very good example of that. And so, it is not only the it keeps going back to Porter's 5 forces. So, it kind of is a good counter to the buyer power. So, buyers like HP, Dell, etc., they have to give respect to the Intel Inside brand position, and thereby the Intel continues to command a price premium over its competitors like AMD and so on. So, that is another very good example of brand and its power and its long term benefit. Now, this is another case that you have a strong brand, but want to penetrate the market even better. You are in the same market, but you want to go deeper. You want to snatch market share away from competitors or expand the market. So, sometimes we use for this complementary branding. Like for example, State Bank of India. State Bank of India is already a very strong bank, but it sees that there is one kind of revenue stream which happens through this credit card mechanism. So, they create a co-brand by tying up with Visa or MasterCard, and they have SBI Visa or SBI MasterCard and so on. Or for example, IRCTC, which has a very powerful internet commerce, e-commerce engine, one of the biggest in India and one of the most robust. And they see that people who travel, they often look for transit accommodation, some budget hotel near the station. They may have to catch the flight next morning or take another train and so on. So, they tied up with Ginger hotels, and in the process, what earlier they attempted to do this rail Yatri Niwas, now those have been upgraded, and this combination or co-branding is working pretty well.
Yeah.
So, these were some examples of different situation, and we can now in two matrices we can put it all together. So, if we have on product old and new and market old and new, then we can see that these are this is in a way another representation of the famous Ansoff matrix.
Yeah.
So, existing product, new product, and existing market, new markets. This 2 by 2 will lead us to different types of brand strategies. So, when we are an existing product in an existing market, it actually has to use market penetration. So, there we are strategies are sub branding, flanker branding, co-branding. When we have we are in an existing market, but we have a new product, then we need to do market development, therefore, we have to do brand extension, line extension. If we have a new market, new product situation, that is a total diversification. So, that is often, I would not even call it brand extension as it is shown on this slide. I would say it is brand extension as well as brand recreation.
Yeah.
I would like to use that word. And then if it is an existing product, but you are going into a new market, then it is product development. So, there actually you can go for things like ingredient branding and co-branding, etc. So, this is one matrix, and the other one is this product line versus brand name. So, if it is the product line is existing product line, brand name is existing, then it is line extension. If the product line is existing and the brand name is new, then it is a kind of a flanker brand, like we discussed the example of Tide. Or if it is the product line is new, the brand name is new, then it is of course another recreation or diversification. And if it is the brand name is existing, but the product line is new, like Dove shampoo, then it is brand extension from soap to shampoo or from tooth powder to toothpaste and so on and so forth. So, that kind of completes our discussions on certain different situations. To complement what you have already discussed is the fundamental concepts of brands, and maybe we will later on look at some more detailed cases, short cases that can be discussed either in the global scenario or in the Indian scenario in the subsequent 2 sessions of this week. Thank you.
Thank you.